Hey everybody, just got home from work and wanted to try to create a quick demonstration video on how to create a simple timing box. This is a box, I'm not a super technical guy when it comes to hardware, and I'm definitely not like an electrical guy, so I've seen some different instructions on how to create timing boxes on other forums and different things that people have emailed me or whatever, and they're all like something I feel like that not your average guy would feel comfortable doing. So my goal today was to create a box that your average person would want to do, so, or could do. So everything that I'm going to use is designed to do exactly what we need. You don't have to worry about, oh, what if I buy the wrong amperage of this, and or what type of connector do I need on that to be able to have some kind of joint, and what if I get so many joints that it loses power through the antenna cables or whatever else. And so we're going to try to find what is the simplest, easiest setup, obviously the least expensive we can go with, but also something that is weatherproof and easy to use. So I can't switch the camera while I'm recording on this phone here, but I'm going to stop the video, show you what I've already set up, and we're going to just follow the same setup for the second box that we're going to create. So let me show you what I've already done, and then kind of give you the how and why I chose the pieces I chose, and why the box is designed the way it is, and why I even chose the box I chose. So let's dig into that first. All right, so first, forgive the mess in the garage. I got a lot of things going on, a lot of equipment I'm testing, and Christmas decoration I'm making, different things. But anyways, so I've got a lot of stuff laid out. I've got our table on the left there is all the individual components and the tools we're going to use to make the box. The finished result is going to be here on the left. So this is an example where I would wheel out to the finish line. If you've got a race result mat or a black box timing mat, you'd put that maybe on the box. All your readers and our reader, and then camera and camcorder, everything else inside the box there. Printer maybe on top. Obviously, you bring a table out, maybe a tent if you're going to be potentially in the rain or direct sunlight for a long time. So there's other small things you bring out, but primarily that's everything you need, including power to last well through the race if you get there and there's no power at all. So I mean, I'll show you how I've got it all set up, all weatherproof, easy to cart out there, easy to transport too. That bottom box comes off of the wheel cart real easy, so a pretty nice setup. But first, let's start by this table on the right, which is all the individual components. Now, this is not all, but this is most everything, the core components you would need to bring to a race. And so if you're like most, well, the way I was for years anyways, is I'd put all this in maybe a plastic tub, carry this out to the finish line, hook everything up, time the race, unhook everything, put it back in the tub, come back home. That's a lot of timers do that. It's just very tedious. You have to worry about leaving some critical component like the power supply at home. Maybe the Ethernet cord, something small. You could leave it home and make it a big headache on race day. So the other thing is you have to worry about if you're training a new timer. There's a lot of connections here, right? You got the antenna cables going into the reader, and then going into the laptop, and then the Ethernet going from the reader to the laptop. You got the power supply going to the reader, and battery backup, and okay, which side to use? Obviously, the battery side and surge side. You want to use the battery side, and then what order do you connect things up? You want to make sure you hook this end into the reader first before you plug in the power supply to the reader, because if you plug in a hot power supply, it could shock the board. So the documentation on the reader say don't do that. And so there's just a lot of considerations and time things you have to worry about. Obviously, a lot of times you're setting up in the dark. It could be in the rain. Could be freezing. So you get these metal connectors trying to, it could just not be fun, right? To have individual pieces like this. And of course the added wear and tear of unhooking, hooking up, unhooking up every time. So that is what most timers have, is probably individual pieces and stuff. If you're a DIY timer, like most of my users are, of course. And so the next step up is I bought this timing box. You can buy this box, I guess from RF Max. And so this has got the external ports that you need. But there's pros and cons with this, right? This is a big step up from that because everything's pre-hooked up, which is great. That's the objective, right? But there's a big step up we're going to take from here to there, and I'll explain why. Even though this box is a lot more expensive, I think this is a better way to go. So the box, let me tell you the pros and cons with this. Obviously, the pro is everything's hooked up and ready to go. The con is that this box is expensive. I don't remember the exact price, but it is, I want to say at least $600 for the box, right? And now I think it comes with the antenna cables you need. So if I take all this stuff out, let me take out the camera, take out the antenna cables and the extra antenna and the Ethernet. This Ethernet goes to the external to your laptop, of course. Inside, you got the Ethernet going to the reader, and then the patch cables here going from the antenna ports out to the external ports. So if you were to try to make this exact same box, now by the way, this box does not come with these external outlets here. I bought this box from a timer who was retiring, and he used to be an electrical engineer, so he put these external power supplies or power ports in. Awesome idea. The problem is I need more than 4 most races, so I'll show you what I did with my box in a second. But if you were to make this box yourself, you know, maybe buying something from whatever, like a Pelican case or whatever, and you're going to drill the holes and get the little adapters and pieces, it's expensive. So these patch cables are stupid expensive. You're going to spend hundreds of dollars just on the cables alone. And then you got to find what is the exact adapters I need, ports I need to get the external connections like this. And they're going to need to buy like an external. I would prefer this one over that one. You see how this is more flush mount, easy to use. That one, man, it's tough sometimes to get your finger in there and unhook that Ethernet cable. And so this is more flush mount. You don't have to worry about breaking it off by accident. It's got a nice metal connector on the outside, or at least it's a hard painted plastic, but it looks and feels like metal. And so you gotta and of course you got the power in, you gotta buy this, and then if you're gonna do power out, and you gotta figure out how to configure things to where it's all set in there nicely. And then on top of that, when you're carrying this thing around, it's got a handle, no wheels, and so it's pretty heavy. And as you move stuff around, you know, I put in like a clipboard and my camera, as you see. I put my camcorder in there. I've got, of course, as a timer, you got to have a nice headlamp because you're setting up in the dark usually. And then also, I'm giving all of my timers kind of like again an emergency backup power supply. This is simply a cigarette lighter inverter, so that will keep a reader powered, no problem. So again, just another emergency backup power supply if needed. Hopefully they'll never need this, but I want to make sure they all got one. So if you're to do this entire box, you got to figure out all the connectors, and this is a lot to figure out. And most people, I feel like, wouldn't be comfortable like doing all this and figuring out what connectors and where to buy from. And even if you did feel comfortable doing this, you're going to spend a lot more than what we're going to show you here. So anyways, that table there, we can forget about that one now. I just want to show you the individual pieces and kind of the box that I had and why I think this other box is better. So on the left here, this is kind of what I imagine is the finished product that I would actually wheel out to the finish line. Whatever tripods, those 2 tripods, one's going to go to the camcorder that's in the box and the camera that's in the box. And then obviously you've got headlamps, and I've got a starting siren inside there and some other things. Inside that box, I've actually got 2 battery backups. You don't have to have 2. You can definitely go with 1 UPS battery backup, which is what most people have. But I decided to have 2. So this is a Blue Eddy, what is this, a EB3A. There's Jackery in different devices, but I like the dimensions of this. It fits well in the box compared to Jackery that's kind of got a big handle top, I think, usually. So this had the right dimensions. It was the best value by far. It's got the best features I can see. It does have all that. I'm never probably going to hook it up to a solar array, but you could. It's got, I don't have a wireless charging phone, but it's got different cool features. So it's got everything I need, the right dimensions. So this is, I bought 5 of these, I believe. Back here's some here. Yeah, there's 3 there. And I've already got 1 in the box over here. So we're going to make a box with that. And so if you don't have one of these, that's fine. But your total cost, because my goal was to try to make it to where you simply drill a few holes inside this box and you set everything in and you're done. I don't want you to have to worry about all these little extra cables and what length of patch cable do you need and all that mess. And so I'm going to try to show you what I hope is the simplest setup that just about anybody can do. So the total cost, if you already had like a jigsaw, these little hole saws, you may have some of those little bits. If not, they're not terribly expensive. But the total cost of just the box and these individual components, hopefully it's just a couple $100, and it saves you a lot of time and a lot of headache. So I think it's well worth it. So let's take that stuff off the box. Let me show you what's inside and where I put the outlets on the box itself. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the box pre-assembled. I got to give credit to Oscar for that antenna idea. Oscar on Timers Talk. I'm sorry, I can't remember your last name. On some of his boxes, he's got an antenna. You see it's actually a little bit inside, even though it's facing this direction. It's still behind the bars, so you can stack stuff on the bars and antennas and printers, whatever else, not worry about it damaging the antenna. But I also have these finger tight only, so that I can, and I've got extra holes here, so if I wanted to swap things around, it's real easy to do that. I think right now I'm going to plan on projecting out this way. All my outlets are coming out that way. So it should be easy to wheel it out, put it right at the finish line, and read out that way. So let me show you what all's in the box. I've also laid out the items that we're going to drill holes for, roughly where they go on, because I don't want what's in the box to make it seem complex. Really, we're just drilling a hole right here and putting on a pass-through port there. As you see, it's already there. So we're just putting a pass-through port on this side. We are using this fan, and it's going to go right here. So we're going to cut a hole and mount that right there. It's a flush mount fan, so easy to do. We've got 2 of these flush mount power strips. They're going to go here and here. You may not need that many ports, but I decided to go. I'd rather have too many than not enough. And then over here, we're going to take this. This is a power out, and it's going to. I'll put it on the bottom. And again, this is where if I have any high output power items like a blower for an arch, or if a food vendor or DJ or some bouncy house vendor wants to plug in because maybe I'm using the only power supply at the finish line location, I can tell them, hey, plug in here, or of course I can have a power strip coming out, and they can use all the power they want here, and it won't affect anything inside the box, the battery backup or anything. So how that happens is that right here, in fact where the white cord is going, is the power inlet, okay? This power inlet has 2 outlets. One of the outlets is going into this device, which is straight back out. Now the reason why I don't have this thing itself sticking out is because there's no flush mount thing on it, whereas this one is designed to be flush mount. So anyways, so keep that in mind that these 2 things, power's going in, come right back out because of this, the 2 outlet thing here. So anyways, I want to set everything out just so you don't get overwhelmed, that we're really just drilling a couple of holes here, cutting out 2 rectangles and 1 square there, and cutting out 1 hole on this side, and that's it. There's no other drilling or whatever else that needs to be done. So now that we have that out of the way, let's look at what's inside the box. Now, again, this is a bunch of stuff. You may or may not have all this stuff, but I want to show you kind of what I've done, just to give you ideas. So as a timer, you're probably going to have some kind of backup system. So we have a second laptop where someone's just hitting the space bar to capture times manually, and we have someone at the end of the sheet writing bib numbers down in order. And then I'll start off with this. A lot of people have a camera and a camcorder. So this little bag here, it's got our Ghost XL camera. I bought the white edition because out in direct sunlight, I figure it's going to stay cooler than a black, which is the default. Plus, I think the white was also cheaper. So same specs and everything. It's just white versus black. So I chose the white because of the heat and then also the cost. But this thing will record for 9 hours straight. So it's a really good camera. For a finish line backup system or a finish line recorder. Of course, I upload that to YouTube and link it to the Run Sign Up results. Of course, we got the standard Canon camera with a 15-foot a USB cable to hook up to the finish line or backup timing computer for automatic photo capture. And then, of course, a charger for the camera, a charger for the camcorder is in this bag. So that's there. And then you don't have to use this, but I bought this because I think it's going to make a clean, easy, clean looking finish line, easy to set up. So the idea with this is, let me see if I can do this one-handed. You can simply undo the Ethernet cord. So the idea here is that you would pass this, of course you would take your antennas out when you get there. When you may not have antennas if you get a mat antenna, right? You may just use a mat antenna plus the antenna up there. But anyways, you would pass this through the pass-through port and plug it straight into your reader. Okay, just like that. And then you just simply wheel this out to your finish line. Okay, so once you get to the finish line table, this retractable Ethernet device comes with this retractable Ethernet device. And so the idea is you wheel this out to your finish line table, set it up near your laptop, and then plug this into this, and then plug this into your laptop. And this is retractable, it'll stay wherever you want. So now, when you're done timing, of course, you unhook this, and I can't do it one-handed, but you pull that a little bit and it all retracts, and then you simply turn the wheel and retract everything back. So, should be a nice, easy, clean setup. Okay, so, again, we can take these out. There's nothing else on this side besides the antennas. Let me see if I can do this one-handed. And of course, there's something catching there, but they slide in real easy. They should slide out real easy. I'm going to leave them in there for now because I can't do two hands. So antennas over here, nothing else on this side, and it's got a nice divider here that kind of keeps the antennas on that side. I don't have a divider, but the little lip sticking out here is just enough to hold the antennas in place on both ends. Here, of course, is the Blue Eddy battery power. You may not have this. If you don't, then of course you can just put your UPS battery backup on this side, and then you'd have more room if you want to put tripods or anything else in here. Besides this Blue Eddy, let me tell you how I've got things hooked up. So I showed you the two-prong power inlet. Well, one of the inlets, one of the prongs is going right back out, like I told you about that. The other one is going straight to here, okay? So this is going to the dual-prong inlet here, right? This is powering the main battery supply. The battery supply is powering the battery backup, okay? So we could lose all power. Well, let me keep going, sorry. Let me tell you what this one is. So this is to the UPS battery backup, and this is to the, let me take the reader out. So another nice thing about this setup is the 12 by 24 sheet polycarbonate sheet that I use just happened to be when I cut it off here at the end. Well, what's left was about a sheet about this long, and that's just big enough to put your reader mounted here, and you can lay it sideways, and this right here is wide enough. It's actually the exact dimensions you need to slide down and be a divider inside the box. So just happened to work out perfectly. So now I can easily slide the reader out if I want to. So if I need to see the host name, I can easily do that. If I need to work on the reader, I can. So for now, I'm going to take it out just so we can see. Okay. Of course, I've got a box of safety pins, and I've got a headlamp. You're going to need that, of course, as a timer. All right, so this is unique. So let me show you this. Most people probably haven't seen this, okay? So if you're a timer, you're going to use like a starting pistol or air horn, or maybe you're just going to yell on your mark, get set, go. But that's not super professional to have to audibly yell it. You want to have some kind of device. So this right here, I don't really like the air horns. They're kind of big. They are half the time sound obnoxious. Halfway work when you try to use them. You have to worry about how much air is in the tank, and you have to worry about what if you pack it away and something jostles it just enough to where it's sitting there, spewing out. But with this, you can charge it and it'll last, forever. Not forever, I'm saying a long time. And you can hit the off switch and not have to worry about, for this to actually go, you have to turn it on and then hit the button. So it's less likely it's going to be in there buzzing by accident. It's got 3 different noises. I don't remember which one I have it set on now. Let me turn it on number 2, I think is what I want. And it's got 3 different volume levels, and it's also got 3 different settings for the flashlight. I can turn the flashlight on. I can turn it to where it only comes on when I press the button, and I can also have it to where the flashlight never comes on. So I'm going to turn it on and put it on the loudest setting, and let's do all 3 noises so you can hear it. Now, the video is going to muffle it, so it's going to be nowhere near as loud in the video than it is in real life. This is really loud. It's actually so loud and that it can be used as a self-defense system. That's what some girls buy this for, which is handy, by the way, because we do have timing crews that are individual females going out. And so they can carry this on them as they're setting up for the race and use this as self-defense also if someone approaches them, early in the morning when it's dark. So here's sound number 1. Here's sound number 2. And here's sound number 3. I'm probably going to use sound number 2. So anyways, pretty nice little device. I think it costs like $15. So way better than, I don't know if you like it better than an air horn or not, but I think there's a lot of benefits it has over an air horn. It is cheaper than an air horn. So anyways, that's in the box. Another thing, by the way, I'm supplying, well, I've also got a cigarette lighter inverter for every timer or 2 that I give them. I can't remember if I covered that earlier or not. But anyways, okay, in the box, once you take all that out, you can see that there's actually a power strip in here. Let me do it this way so you see. So I've got a flush mount power strip, and I've only got it hooked up with like double-sided tape. I could screw in a couple screws right here, real small screws to hold in place. I just didn't feel it was necessary because everything's in there really good right now. I'm only using 2 of the outlets. So with the next timing box, I'm going to use a much smaller 4-outlet power strip. And it's got 4 outlets and it's got 3 USB. Because I am using 2 outlets here. These 2 outlets here are powering these external power strips on the outside of the box, okay? So that's what these 2 outlets are doing. And again, this power strip is getting power from this right here. So these outlets on this power strip are powered through a battery backup. So if I have my TVs hooked up here, if I have anything else, it's all going to work, even if I lose all power at the finish line externally. So I have two things. Actually, I only have one right now, but I had two things plugged up to the USB ports. One of them is the charger for this. And I think I'm going to plug the third. I'm actually going to have three things plugged in USB, I think. And the other one's going to be the charger for the camcorder. That way it's always in there. When I get done timing, I hook it up to charge and pack everything away. And I can easily plug in the external power, turn everything on when I get home to charge it all at one time. So, so you would want a power strip that's got at least probably 4 power outlets and at least maybe 3 or 2 USB ports. Now keep in mind also the fan that I see that we've got here, you can daisy chain fans together, so it actually has a USB power supply here. That's what's powering this little light. This is totally optional. You don't have to have the light. I just happen to have one, so I thought, well, it's handy for me to know instantly when I have power because the light comes on. Plus, if it's dark, this light kind of shines down and everything for me to see. So that's why I'm using this little USB powered little light. So this fan, obviously, if the reader, which is right here, and the battery backup, which has got its own external fans blowing heat out, well, this fan hopefully sucks it out, and with this pass-through port, hopefully it allows enough air to come in to kind of keep it to where it's not burning hot in here. One final thing I'll say about this box, I guess, is that what's cool is this box has this little, and it's hard to see, let me turn this way maybe, it has this little cutout right here. This comes with the box. Well, I found that the fans switch for high, low, medium, and off. It fits perfectly. It actually snaps in like it's made for this. See that? It snaps in. So it's just a cool little, the switch for controlling the fan, which of course I'm going to leave it on high probably. But if it's cold and I don't want to use the power of the battery to control the fan, maybe I've lost power and I don't want to use the fan at all, just switch it off. So now the light goes off, the fan goes off, and it just saves a little bit of juice, right? So pretty cool that it fits in there nice. So anyways, that is what's inside the box. That's what we're going to make. So again, a quick overview. Antennas can fit over here if you don't have a mat antenna. Battery backup. This goes to the UPS battery backup. This goes to the power strip. External outlets, fan, switch for the fan, USB power to the light if you wanted to have one, battery backup, and that's it. And so in my testing, that entire setup will power my entire finish line, 3 TVs, 2 laptops. I'm trying to remember what else I set up for 4.5 hours. I'm sorry. That's something. Sorry, an hour and a half. I'm sorry, with everything. Now that's not the printer. It will not power a printer. But again, if I lost all power at the finish line, I could time the race. Because again, I'm not going to turn the TVs and everything on if I've got no power until maybe 10 minutes before the first runner comes in. So I should have an hour and a half from the time the first runner comes in to I've lost all power. And if I know I've got no other power, of course I'm not going to power as much as I would if I had external power coming in. So I can make it last well over an hour and a half. I'm just saying if I lost all power, I would have an hour and a half with TVs and everything. Now the reader and laptops would last longer because again, it has its own battery backup. The reader does on the right side, the UPS, and the laptop has its own battery in the laptop. So I could get through timing much longer than that. I'm just saying having a full finish line would be an hour and a half. Now, I also do have a double-sided clock now, so I would not use all 3 TVs. I would probably use one at the end of the finish line. So that's 2 TVs taken out, which means will probably last a lot longer, an hour and a half with this setup. So anyways, so that's the setup that we're going for. So let's actually do the quick job of setting it all up. So I'm going to stop the video and start drilling some holes, and I'll show you, as we do that. Okay, so here what I'm going to do, when I made the last box I found, I put this top right at the very end of where this goes down. And it fits fine there, but it's really snug on the inside on the bottom part of this outlet. So I'm actually going to go up a little bit. And last time also I lined these corners up, and I still had like a 1/4 inch of room on this side before the divider hit. So I'm actually going to go in a little bit just to kind of create more space between everything. So I'm going to go up a little higher and to the left a little bit of this here. And then I'm going to drill a small pilot hole. So I'm going to do the same on this side. So I'm going to line it up with the next to last on this corner. And I go slightly higher than it though, just again to create more room between the battery backup and the bottom of the power outlet. And then again, I'm going to go about one small drill bit width, just a small gap, because again, I got plenty of room between the divider on this side. So I'm going to drill a small pilot hole here. Okay, finally got an outline of what I'm going to cut out. This one is the most difficult one to do. That's why I'm starting with it, because there's not much lip on the back side, so you don't have a lot of room for air. So when in doubt, maybe cut a little bit narrow, and then you could shave it off little by little if you need to get it to fit in. But so what I did was I drilled the holes. Of course, I laid it flat, and then drilled the holes exactly where they are. And then I measured from here. This is 3/8 of an inch from the bottom here to the hole. So I measured that, put a dot here, and then I measured the width, and then it's 7/8 of an inch from the center of the hole to the outer edge. So I did 7/8, 7/8 on each side. Did the same thing on the bottom. Used a straight line. I actually had a pencil laying next to me, so I laid it flat and used a Sharpie to draw the square. So now we're ready to cut these out. I drilled a small pilot hole. I'm going to use the smallest hole saw bit that I've got, and I'm going to try this one-handed, so it may go crazy on me. But anyways, I'm going to just drill a hole right in the middle, just so I can get a hole big enough for my jigsaw to fit in. So all right, here we go. Okay, there's one. Now I may have to pull that plug out. Let's see if I can do another one. I probably won't. Okay, so they're in there. Again, this is the toughest part, because again the rest of it is drilling holes. So I put these higher than I did the last box. Again, because I want to create as much space as possible from the bottom of the outlet in the back to the battery backup or anything else. So on this, I'm going to do the same thing. Now the problem with making it higher is that on the last box I put this right on the edge, which is fine. Everything fits under, because this is the outer shell. Of course, this is where we're going to draw a circle. Draw the square. That's what we're going to cut out. So this, unfortunately, these didn't come with the template, so it's harder. This will be a little easier, but the problem is I'm going to move this up a little bit, probably about here, maybe even higher, so that it provides even more space between the bottom of the fan and the battery backup. I want as much heat as possible, because obviously heat rises, so the higher the fan is, the better. Plus, the higher it is, the less likely if someone were to kick their foot under here real hard to, because it does have a ramp as you go to kick your foot back there to move it. I don't want someone to kick real hard on the back of the fan. So I don't anticipate that happening, but the higher the better. So in this case, the difficulty with making it higher, though, is you have to take a razor blade or something, a serrated knife maybe or something, and cut these back. So this would be, that's going to be the hard part. The rest of this is easy, especially with the template. You just put it up, trace it out, cut it out. So that's going to be the hard part. I had to cut a little bit here to make it flush. I knew I would. So now, hopefully, if water does get back there, I haven't screwed these down yet, but I'll screw them down. They'll be tight. And I'm sure there's something you could probably silicone that or do something to help ensure water doesn't get back there. I don't think water's going to be an issue. I can always unscrew it and fix it if it is. But in this here, I'm going to move it up a little bit, and I have to take the time to cut these out. Again, that'll make the fan a little higher, which I think would be better. So it's worth the effort, in my opinion. At least I can give it a shot. All right, so that was actually pretty easy to cut off. I just had an old rusty hacksaw laying around. So I used the blade, bent it flat, and kind of went back and forth. It's actually not too bad at all. Did the same thing. I'm going this way with it, so got it all cut out. Got the template up there, laid it out, traced it out. So use the hole saw, cut that out. So now let's jigsaw this out. All right, there she goes. So let's see if she fits. Perfect. Yeah, good. Okay, so now I think it's for the easy part. The only thing that we had that takes a little bit of measuring and cutting is this polycarbonate board, but that's actually pretty easy. So let's do the rest of this pretty quick. Knock it out. On this pass-through port, the instructions say to drill a 2.5-inch hole, which is what I did here. It's exactly 2.5-inch hole. And what you'll find is you can actually see a little light coming through right here. Now it's not going to come out. This is 2 3/4 inch wide or round, and so it's not going to come out. But I'm going to try to go with a 2 1/4 inch hole, even if I have to kind of just slightly shave around it to where it fits in there perfect. But I don't really like that it's that loose. This is exactly what it calls for, though, so I didn't do anything wrong. But just so you know, if you get this exact same thing, then you may want to try to go 2 1/4. So I'm going to try that first. Here's a 2.5 inch hole saw bit, and here's 2 1/4. So I'm going to try the 2 1/4, and then again, I may have to. I don't want to jack it up, but I'll put it as high as I can, and then just see what happens. So, all right, here we go. Yep, 2 1/4 is exactly what you want. It barely moves, no light getting around it. So I don't know why the instructions call for 2 1/2, but 2 1/4 was better. So ignore the instructions, go with 2 1/4. All right, now let's do the ports on the other side. And the power inlet calls for a 2-inch hole, and that is correct. So do exactly what it says there. Make sure you leave enough room though for the lip. So this should now fit in. Great. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. Perfect. Yep, I'll screw that down. It'll be good. Okay. So now let's drill the hole here. So I'm going to leave this here just as a guide. I got to make sure that obviously these lips don't overlap. So I'd rather be on the safe side, go a little too low. So I may actually draw a line or something here, figure it out. But anyways, roughly about there. So let's do that. All right, mission accomplished. That one is a 1 3/4 inch. So let's see if this fits. Let's see if I do this one-handed again. All right, so here's gonna be the tough part. This rubber boot, you know, slide it down and then pinch it and get it through the hole. Again, if I had 2 hands, it'd be a little easier. I don't want to hurt my thumb here. There we go. So obviously I'll pull the rubber boot back around. But yeah, there's that. So there's my external outlet. Very nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, now all of the external things are in there. I haven't screwed any of them in yet, so I'm going to screw those in, and then all we got to do now is just put all the stuff inside. Well, we do also have to cut this polycarbonate sheet, wherever it's at, right there. So I'm going to measure that, cut that. That's our last cut. The rest of it just screws on. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of get a leaf blower and blow all this off, cut that down, and then we'll start putting stuff on the inside. All right, everything is screwed in really snug and tight. Got these in here. So these you can pull on as hard as you want or push in. They're going to be just fine. So now let's work on, let's work on the polycarbonate sheet next. That way we get a divider to put the reader on. I'll show you what I do with that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this, and it, like I said, rest it on, you can rest it on these parts here. And this bar, I'm sorry, it's kind of zoomed in too much here. It's hard to tell, but it's got a little bit, it's not a perfectly square corner, which I like. It's kind of a rounded corner a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this to where this sheet comes right where the round ends. That way it just feels even smoother. So right about there. And so we're going to do that on this side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a marker and mark all the way down, straight line. And then I'm going to mark it knowing I'm going to cut a little bit off. Like, yeah, not a 1/4 inch, or maybe actually a 1/4 inch. Because I want this side to end also the same way towards a nice smooth transition. And so I'll cut this down, and then this is going to be our divider that we're going to put our reader on. So just like we did over there. And this box I'm probably going to use, let's go with the 7500 reader. Now I'm going to mark it out for both. And again, on the bottom side of this reader, I've made it so that it's just finger tight. So if I decided later to switch readers, let's say last minute, I can take my thumbnail here, for example, and it easily unscrew these and take the reader off. There's no reason to really lock it down hard. So it's just kind of loose on there. So we're gonna, the piece that we're gonna cut off from here is gonna be used as our divider to put the reader on there. So pretty nice. All right, so I'm gonna mark this, and we'll cut this down. All right, just cut it down. It looks pretty good. Feel good about, like I said, I wanted it to be a little bit past the edge here, and it is, and a little bit past the edge here. So as your hand kind of feels around it, it feels like a just nice smooth transition. So the next step now is, I'm gonna take my Sharpie, and then we're gonna find the holes you see here. Now I may have to use my phone as a flashlight and shine through the other side to make sure I get it right. But there's a hole here. I'm sorry you can't see, and there's a hole somewhere over here, yeah, down here. And so we're gonna mark. For example, I'm going to mark right there. Okay, so I'm going to drill a hole there. And then I'll do the same here and on the other side. Then we're going to drill the holes that's going to hold this onto here. Now, of course, the bottom is held on here. So there's no holes in this part. I could drill some if I wanted to, but I don't really want to because the weight of the antenna a little bit, and then plus this is going to be built to where it's going to rest here. I don't think there's going to be any problem with it flopping out. Even if it does, it's not going to fall. We'll have 2 screws with washers here, so that'll hold it in place. Okay, next I'm going to lay the polycarbonate sheet on top of the MTI antenna that I'm going to mount onto this thing. And once you get it perfectly square, it's roughly 2 inches overhang on each side. And then the antenna is a 12 by 12, and so this being a 12 by 24 sheet originally, this should line up perfectly to where the top edge is right at the top and the bottom edge is right at the bottom there. So once you get it lined up perfect, just roughly dot where you're going to drill your holes. So this is where the antenna mounts, of course, are going to come through. And you put a nut on the other side and lock it down. And what I do is, once I get this square, drill 4 holes here, and of course 1 for, you're going to make it bigger than this, so 1 for the antenna port. And then once I do that, I'm going to flip it around the other way, and let's assume that what if I decide to switch the direction, maybe I want it reading that way versus that way or whatever. And so I'm going to go ahead and drill holes so that I can easily swap it if for some reason I decide to swap it later. That way I don't have to come back, get my equipment out and drill it again. So it doesn't hurt anything to have the extra holes there, so I might as well do it. But anyway, so that's what I'm going to do now is mount the antenna onto this plate. Okay, so I got the antenna mounted on, no problem there, except for one mistake I made. So I didn't make this mistake the first time around, but I did make it the second time around. I just used one of these hole saw bits that I thought, oh, okay, that's big enough to fit around. I wasn't thinking about how last time I took this little nut off of the antenna here, if you see there, if you take that off, and I found a hole saw bit that was just big enough to go around this, and then if I tighten this nut around, then it would hold this plate on better. And so what I'm gonna have to do is go to Home Depot and buy a washer big enough to fit around here, but small enough for that nut to tighten down on. And so not a big deal, it'll still work just fine. It's just one of those things that whenever I lay it here, if you see here, it's kind of more wobbly than it should be. It should be more pulled tight and stay on it better. So anyway, it's very minor stuff. But for now, I'm not going to focus on the antenna anymore. You know what it looks like over here if you want to do that. So now let's get the reader onto the spare plate here. So for the reader, what we're going to do is we're going to line up the plate so that the top of the plate is at the very bottom of the reader. The reason why is because I don't want the plate, let's imagine the plate was sticking up high. It may, you can get it perfectly centered here. But the problem, though, is imagine trying to screw the antenna cables in and this thing's in the way. So what we want to do is want to put it as low as we can. That does a couple things. Number one, we can cut this. You can make your readers higher, basically higher in the box if you want to kind of, this would be the bottom end. So let's imagine that some water somehow got in there. Then you've got this much playroom. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut this down this way, because since I have a battery and a UPS in here, that UPS, the reader's going to actually be resting on it. So it's sitting up higher than I would like, to be honest. But at the same time, it's not so high that I can't get the antenna cables in and still close the lid. It doesn't bend them too much. It's perfectly fine. It's another ½ inch or inch taller would be too tall, but it's really just fine the way it is. Preferably, it would be a little bit lower. So what I'm going to do is cut this down to where the base of the reader is resting on the battery backup. So it's as low as it can get. But the main thing is you want to line this up here. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm going to tear off the coating. I don't think I can do this one-handed. Yeah, I can. Okay. So I'm going to tear off the coating on both sides so that I can see. There we go. And there should be a coating on this side, yeah. This one I don't really have to tear off, but I might as well. Now you see how clear that is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear this off, then line this up. Again, we don't want to cut anything off the edges here because this fits perfectly this way in as a divider in the timing box there. So we're going to do is line this up just right. And again, I shouldn't be doing this one-handed, but we're going to give it a shot. Roughly about there. Yeah, that's perfectly level with the back edge of the reader. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to mark where I'm going to drill a hole. So I'm going to drill a hole here and here. Now what I should have done before I did that, I'm going to have to wipe that off, is make sure that we're left and right the same. Doesn't have to be exact, but obviously why not make it exact if we can. I mean, at least very, very close. Alright. It's actually just about perfect. Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay. So, mark the holes. And then what we're going to do, make sure I can see those good. It writes a lot easier with that. Yeah, I can see it. So what we're going to do now, again, I want to make it to where I can easily swap readers if I need to. So I'm going to do the same thing with the FX7400 or 7500, whichever one you have. And so I'm going to line this up with the bottom roughly and get it left or right. And then I'll mark those holes as well, and then I'll drill the holes. And then now, again, and then I'll use these washers and screws, and then I can easily, I'll just finger tighten them, and that way I can easily swap one reader to the other if I have to. And so that's what we're gonna do. All right, well that was easy. So now this reader is mounted onto here. If I want to slide it in either direction, it'll just pop right on down. So now it's being held up off the ground and works really nice. And again, I can just push my pass-through cables in. Now I'm going to put the reader on this side, but I'm just showing you that it just will slide in anywhere. I can turn it in either direction I want. But next thing I'm going to do, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this reader off, put the FX9600 on, and that way I'm going to draw a line and cut it this way one final time to get any excess off, because I'm putting, in fact you see I did it here, I'm putting the reader on top of the battery backup, and so I want to be able to put the antenna cables in through the pass-through port and plug in without being sticking up so high that I can't close the lid without severely bending the cables. So that's my next thing, and that's the last cut I believe I got to make, and so then I'll be done with all the tools, and then the final piece is just putting all the stuff in. So we'll do that next. But this one piece that I cut off here, it's going to leave a little strip, and I thought about, hey, is there a useful way I can use that? Okay, and I'm not going to do what I'm about to tell you, but I will tell you one thing you could do. So I thought about having, I had all kinds of ideas. Like maybe I cut this square rectangular shape out and have a floodlight, right, that I can reach in and flip on, and if I'm out late at night and wanted to have a really bright light shining out, but then I thought, okay, maybe I'm getting a little carried away. So, I also thought about lots flush mount lights you can put on vehicles, that only stick on the back side about 1.5 inches out, with a switch on that can have some nice lights out. But again, I decided not to go crazy on it. But one thing that I thought about is, what if I did have a light? I can cut strips with this clear stuff here, slightly smaller than the clear thing, and then mount the clear strips here on the inside, so I got little windows, maybe different spots. And that way I can have a bright light that's inside the box, and assuming that we have external power, that light would be on. And then maybe if the power goes out, I can look over and see that, okay, yeah, the light's off. But of course, during the daytime, you won't be able to see that. So I thought about having little windows, or maybe at nighttime I can have it lit up and it's kind of got ambient light around it, with these little this clear strip I can cut into 1.5 inches or so long pieces. And then, like I said, make little cutouts to have little windows out for, if I have lighting, for example, that USB stick that I showed you earlier, that would light up enough to where you'd be able to see, oh yeah, it's got kind of lighting around it. So little fun things you could do if you wanted to, but I really don't want to right now. So anyways, we are going to cut this strip off. So we've used essentially this whole piece except for this little strip. That's why I was trying to find something useful to do with it instead of just tossing it. But so that's some ideas you could do with it if you wanted to. But all right, I'm going to cut this off, put the other reader on, mark it, cut it off, and then all my cutting should be done. And then the last piece here is just putting all the pieces in. So we'll do that, and then that should be the end of the video. Okay, so I'm having to do everything one-handed, so I can't show you as I hook it up. So I'm going to have to explain. If you have kind of the bare essentials of just the reader, a battery backup, some antennas, and you want to have a box like this, I'm going to show you kind of the setup here. So power's coming in here. It's going to go to this dual outlet here. So It's kind of hard to see here, but yeah, this is going to split, and one of the power supplies is going to go straight back out. So it's going to come in, go right back out that way. Again, this is your high power output things like your blower for your finish line arch or something like that, or if some vendor or whatever else wants to plug in, they can plug in right here. And the other power supply is going to go to the power strip, which is here. And so the power strip is going to power the external ports. So again, if you have a battery backup, the only thing you want powering or using this power is the reader itself. So I've got the reader plugged in, and I haven't turned the battery backup on. In fact, if I do, the reader should come on. And you can turn this the other direction if you want to reach in over here and turn it on. Either way, you want to have easy access to that power button. And so now the reader's going to start booting up. We should start seeing the lights change and all that stuff. So, so the power is going to come in. It's going to split here, and one's going to go right back out. The other split is going to go to the power strip here. The power strip is what's powering the external power plugs here. It's also got a USB port at the top, which is powering this fan. And this fan does have a USB if you needed something else to power. So you really have 3 more USB ports if you want to charge a phone or charge the camcorder or anything else that uses USB. Again, you could use USB like LED lights if you want to have internal lighting in here. So with this setup, again, if you don't have a power bank like a Blue Yeti or a Jackery or whatever, then this will work out nice. And I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, so here we can slide this in. Let me see if I can do this one-handed. Now, you would want to organize your cables a little better before you just slide it in. But this should go on down here. And oh, I was going to show you one more thing actually before I do that. So this right here, I've got it tucked in out of the way on purpose. So what's nice is, again, when I discovered that you can take this and it should just pop right in right here. I haven't done this yet with this box, but it should just pop right in. And again, I can't hardly do it one-handed. There it goes. So now there's your switch to control the fan. And I wish it was a little clearer there. And again, I can tuck these cables in out of the way somewhere. But this is your switch for the fan now, so go ahead and turn it off. And there you go. And then, yeah, the final piece of the puzzle now is just putting the reader in. And so, again, I have the cables kind of in the way here, so you'd want to tuck some of this down and out of the way. And this power strip, by the way, you would want to mount it probably with either double-sided tape, or it does have mounting screws in the back. To where you could actually have it, hard fixed right there. But anyways, again, this is just a quick demo of how to put it together. So this should slide in, and there it goes. And eventually it will go all the way down. Again, I got stuff in the way and I'm trying to do this one-handed. So you can definitely have that resting on the bottom. And now your system is set up and ready to go. You just pass in your Ethernet cords, your Ethernet cord here, and your antenna cords in there. Of course, you will take the antennas out when you're ready to time a race. Those will plug in here, and you're good to go. You just close the lid and time it. So yeah, let's do one final video where I actually have the Blue Yeti in here, and I'll explain how to hook that up. Okay, I just dropped these in. I haven't tried to pretty up the cables. It's getting late, so I wanted to make this the last video here. But so if you have a power bank, I wanted to show you, again, you can definitely twist tie those cables, kind of like I've done here. I've got a lot of cables tucked in over here and then tucked in this corner, so that you can slide the reader in real easy. So the way this works is, if you're going to use a power bank, you got 2 different options here. And when the power comes in, you're still going to split it and have one going right back out. Again, that's your high power output, blow up arch, and vendors want to plug in or whatever. That's a safe outlet, so it doesn't mess up anything in here. The other split on this power inlet here, it's got the 2-prong split. The other split, I've got it, again, you got 2 ways you can go about this. You can have it to where basically it's going straight here, so that it's powering the power bank, and then the power bank is what's powering the UPS battery backup and the power strip. So this white power strip here, the white power strip is what's powering this. So if it all comes from the battery, that means these are battery backups. And so if you plug in TVs, for example, or anything else, and then it will run off of the power bank if you lose power. So you may not even notice at your finish line if you lose power, because everything's running. Assuming you don't have any huge power output things, like a printer, for example. And you don't want to plug your printer to any of this stuff either, by the way. So I don't think it'll. It'll shut down this. Now it won't shut down your reader, thankfully, but it will short this out temporarily. So you'll have to come in here and hit the power button to reset it, I think. But the point is, you've got two options. You can either have these outlets to where they are powered, or you can, when the power comes in into this split, you can have this split powering the power strip, and then you can have this battery bank plugged into the power strip. And that way, if you wanted to plug your printer up and different things, these outlets, you could. And then you could still have your UPS being powered by the power bank. So that way you still have extra long life on the reader, no problem there. So that may be actually the better option. I haven't decided which way I'm going to do yet. I do like the idea that if I'm going to use TVs to have, and I guess I'm trying to think if you can swap these around. You might be able to have it to where half of it's powered, half of it's not. That way maybe you can plug your printer and everything into this side. Maybe your blow-up arch and different things on this side, and then your TVs or anything that needs battery backup on this side. So, or whichever side, right? So there's different ways you can go about it if you have a power bank, but I just want to show you. Now again, you pretty up the cables, you'll be able to slide the reader in, and if you've got a mat antenna, you won't need 3 of these. That frees up all that space. But and one thing too, you'll see that this just snaps in, like I mentioned earlier, really nice. So you can turn your fan on or off. Real easy, but yeah, so this is the setup, and should work just fine. Again, pretty quick and easy. It's a one-day project, I feel like, but it'll definitely be something you use for years. I'd recommend it. So, all right, well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully you learned something, and if you got any critiques or ways to improve it, let me know.